Please rise for invocation by Susan McCaffrey of Grace Episcopal Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, in your word you have given us a vision of that holy city, to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold and visit, we pray, the city of Port Orange. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Thank you for sending us honest and able leaders. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppressions, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that men and women from different cultures and with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Ford.
Present.
Councilmember Fremont.
Here.
Councilmember Stover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Public comments on consent agenda items. Anything on the consent agenda that anybody on the public would like to comment on? Now is your time. Robert? Robert Reinhagen. Go ahead, buddy.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. On B9, for project 7M1057, they're going to move $300,000 for a software project. So my question would be, does that mean that there's going to be $900,000 surplus in the 2021 budget, or is it just a bad planning on somebody's part? And then the other is B11, a historic tree cut down by Aardvark tree removal. They indicated that they thought this was decay, yet the city forester found no indication of decay. So my question is, why is the city not taking some action against Aardvark tree removal? As a minimum, maybe giving a report or a complaint to the Better Business Bureau, so that anybody looking them up would find that there's concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others comments on from the public on the consent agenda items? There being none, need an approval for the agenda for the evening?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 7C and item 12 from the consent agenda.
Item 7C and item 12. Okay, may I have a motion for approval for the agenda for the evening?
So moved. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Marilyn, you want to make a motion to pull 7C and 12 from the consent agenda, is that correct?
That is correct.
May I have a second for that motion?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion as far as the balance of the consent agenda?
Move to accept the balance of the consent agenda minus 7C and 12.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Fremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stover.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 5-0. Item 7C. Marilyn, your question?
Okay, here's my question. This is an interlocal agreement between the town of Ponce Inlet and the city of Port Orange. On a Fourth Amendment for sewer services, and as part of this, in Ponce Inlet, sewer service will be provided to 24 homes. Well, as I read this, and if you look at the cost distribution, we've had an interlocal agreement before. Ponce Inlet will be able to apply for a grant, which will help the costs. And certainly clean water is in everybody's interest, but if you look at the cost distribution, the city will pay roughly 300,000, just shy of that, and Ponce will pay $85,000. And then further complicating it, you have citizens of Ponce Inlet calling us saying they want sewer service. So my question is, it seems to me, if you could remind me, why is it that Port Orange residents are paying what I see as the lion's share of something that really benefits Ponce Inlet, and also are their residents paying their fair share to hook up to sewer service, because at the end of the day, that's beneficial to them.
Jake?
Yes, sir. Lynn is prepared to answer that question.
I'm sure she is.
Lynn Stevens, Public Works and Utilities Director. Yes, ma'am, I understand your questions. So you are correct. The City of Port Orange provides all sewer service to the town of Ponce Inlet. So all of their customers are ours. Currently, we have about 800 customers that we serve over there. We did a septic to sewer survey of all of our service area, including inside city and outside city. The company ranked how impaired those septic tanks were. And based on that survey, there was a total of about 2,200 septic tanks in our entire service area. 410 of those reside in Ponce Inlet. So the city had about 730 inside our city limits. So we started looking at certain neighborhoods within the city. We looked at neighborhoods outside the city. Ponce Inlet was getting ready to do some paving, some water work and drainage work on Ponce de Leon Circle. They came to us and said, hey, now is the time. We're getting ready to pave. We're getting ready to do some water and drainage work on this road. You've had a couple of residents ask for sewer service. Would you like to partner up with us? We'll go for some grant money and see if we can't get sewer service in this area. It is an area that is a very much a concern from a septic tank standpoint. So to answer your question, it's not just the citizens of Port Orange that are paying this bill. You also have all the citizens in Ponce Inlet that are also footing the bill. They will be paying for their connection fees. Will be also getting their impact fees because they'll have impact on our sewer system. We'll be gaining another new lift station to service that neighborhood. And we'll gain 24 new customers, to which they've had over a 50% commitment from the residents to connect, which has been another problem for us, is getting people, once we install the system, to actually connect. So the town of Ponce Inlet is also looking at some additional grant money to see if they can't assist with some of the connection fees from the residents. So the city of Port Orange is footing the bill, but not just the citizens of Port Orange. We do have a lot of customers in Ponce Inlet that are also paying for their portion of the service area.
I understand that, but they're only paying $85,000 compared to our $300,000, and to me that seems a little bit inequitable.
So when we broke down the project, and I included in the backup material the engineer's estimate, 77% of the total project was for the sewer system alone. So what we did was we looked at site preparation. We agreed that we would have to do site preparation if we were going to go in there and just do sewer in this area. We would foot the bill for that $80,000 of site preparation. So we said, okay, equal, we'll split it 50-50. So we decided that that would be the best way to break that up, is they pay 50%, we pay 50%. Sewer goes right down the middle of the road. Their water and drainage do not. So we would have the lion's share of site preparation. Also, we would have a very large portion of restoration, and they're footing the bill for all restoration. So if you look at their drainage numbers on the engineer's estimate that was attached to the agenda item, it shows that the water service and the drainage area that they were actually going to do, their work that they had planned to do, was a very small portion of the project. The sewer system was 77% of the project.
Okay, well, that brings me back to, because I'm concerned about equity and in terms of paying. You said of impaired sewer or septic to sewer, there were 730 in Port Orange and 410 in Ponce. My question would be, would that money be better spent fixing Port Orange as a priority? Because I understand impaired are the most important ones.
Sure. So we've been looking at our city limits and trying to focus on getting sewer systems where there are impaired septic tanks. We have added a couple of single-family homes, but the large portions, Bentwood is our number one priority. Bentwood subdivision are very large lots. So we reached out to the residents of a couple of blocks of Bentwood where we would need to strategically place lift stations. The residents were less than willing to have those dog houses in their front yard. So what staff and I have done is we have regrouped, we have stepped back, and we're looking at alternatives where we can do a smaller footprint, something that's not so noticeable in those neighborhoods. So the neighborhoods that do need to get sewer service are those large lots where it's going to be extremely expensive when we go in and tear those neighborhoods up to install sewer. So we have not forgotten about those neighborhoods. We're looking at some of that low-hanging fruit. Ponce de Leon happens to be one because the town has gone ahead and gotten the grant money to assist. So,
Well, I understand that, but I think you're missing my point. My point is the division of dollars. It's only 24 homes that are going to connect. There's no other place in our city with impaired sewers where it's only 24 homes.
there are some areas where there's only 24 homes, but the bill is a lot higher.
Is it gonna
And we
get any
have to
cheaper
get,
in the future?
it's not gonna get cheaper in the future, but we have to get residents buy-in to commit to connect. And that is the challenge, that and finding strategic locations to put lift stations so we don't have to do pressurized systems or vacuum systems, because inherently they will create problems in the long run. We like the gravity sewer systems instead of the vacuum and the low pressure systems. We think gravity always works with or without power, and that's been our focus.
Has Public Works and Water Utilities done a strategic 5 or 10 year plan for all the impaired sewer systems in our city and rank them? So do you have a priority list that you're gonna work through?
We do, and Bentwood was first on our list.
Okay.
So part of this 2016 study gave us that list, told us how many homes, which neighborhoods, where they are, and an estimated cost of installation. But they were recommending the vacuum and the pressurized systems. Staff and I have talked with Jake. We believe gravity is where the city should go. It's more expensive to install gravity. We think that the prices will drop over time if we can do more directional drills. But restoration is probably the biggest cost in installing that. Restoration and putting in the lift station are the two biggest costs.
And would grant monies be available to the city down the line?
Yes, we believe they will. Of course, these areas would not qualify for CDBG, but we could go for some of the St. John's money. Hopefully the state loosens up some of those coffers a little bit and we can go after some of that money as well.
Okay, thank you.
So there's two other points I want to bring up when we're talking about septic to sewer. Septic to sewer, if you recall, is one of the mayor's priorities and by consensus council's priorities for the past 4 or 5 years. But now that he's the mayor, it's one of his priorities. So one of the guidelines that was provided to staff a while ago is the most bang for the buck, and to try to preserve the areas where the environment is most affected. And we've been to multiple conferences where the barrier islands are the ones that are causing the most damage to the Indian River Lagoon and other areas. So that was one of the other reasons we picked this this spot. The other thing that we're having problems with is there's a state statute that says if we run sewer down a street that that homes are obligated within a year to hook up. and our city has not been yet willing to hold people accountable to that and hook them up. We can't always get it to them for free. We can't always get the right amount of grant money to help pay their impact fees. And as Lynn said, especially at Bentwood, it's going to cost each landowner a lot of money because the properties are so big, and the run to get it to where it needs to go is very expensive. So until we have that mandate, getting people to buy in, we what's the last one we did here where we got buy-in and we had the community meeting?
That was White Acres.
White Acres, we did White Acres, and even that with CDBG money was a tough sell. I don't know if we got 100%
No, we do not.
participation yet, and we kind of had 100% at the meeting. Everybody was for it, but when it came time to write the check, it wasn't so pretty. So cost benefit and return on investment for the environment. And again, Lynn said it was it was in fact our sewer system in Ponce Inlet, and Ponce has graciously done a lot of legwork for us for this one because they really want it. We think this is the best.
And there's a value in that as well.
Best value for the money.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
You have a motion and a second on item 7C. Approval of the interlocal agreement between the town of Ponce Inlet and the city of Port Orange for the Fourth Amendment, the restatement of the amendment to the sewer services. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Item 12.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is the request from Gindy Lamplighter Mobile Home Park to remove a historic tree so they can put in another mobile home. And the recommendation from the EAB was denial, and staff also did the same. The reason I pulled this is I wanted to ask the city attorney, later on in our meeting, there is the tree ordinance, and we talked about enhanced penalties. Will that become effective upon passage if we pass that tonight?
Yes, you have a second reading on the ordinance, and you have, I think, 2 or 3 resolutions that are tied to that ordinance, but as soon as the second reading it goes through successfully, that ordinance is effective immediately, as are the resolutions.
Okay, well, there's the nub of my concern, that currently, what would somebody have to pay? What would be the fine if we deny this and they go ahead and cut down the tree? Aren't we in the same situation, or they cut down the tree? Aren't we in the same situation as item number 12, where, not 12, 10 or 11, where a residential tree, historic tree was removed without a permit? I mean, I guess it just strikes me that if we deny this, Lamplighter could still decide, even if the fee was enhanced, that the return on their investment of putting a mobile home park in there is worth an enhanced fine. So I feel like it's sort of a conundrum. You know, we can go ahead and deny it, but then we have to. So I guess where I'm going is,
It doesn't matter.
well, but is
They-
there
if they-
something else we should think about when, particularly if the recommendation of the Environmental Advisory Board was denied, staff was denied, council then determines to deny, and should a property owner go ahead and still remove a tree saying, you know, I really want it gone and it's in my interest, I don't care if I'm paying the fine. Do we have enough teeth? Should we be thinking about something different?
It's my my belief that part of the reason why the denial recommendation came is because the request also came with a request to the $8,601 of mitigation that they're supposed to pay. They asked to waive that.
Right.
And I mean, I was going to have a question of what if we denied this request, but went ahead and authorized, in the interest of staff time, to go ahead and approve it contingent upon them accepting the payment of the 8601. Can we do that? Because what I'm thinking is if we say no to this, it's just going to go back and they say, okay, I guess we got to suck it up, do another application, go through that, and then we got to go through all this again.
Tim Burbank, Community Development. First, to address kind of the difference between the item number 11 and number 12. Item number 11 was a single-family residence. This is basically a mobile home park, is considered a commercial property then. So there's currently already in the Land Development Code, as we stand right now, codes in there that require that $86,000 payment. $8,600 payment then. Plus, if they would have removed it without coming for us, there's a $5,000 penalty in there too then. So there are, it would be close to $13,000 they would have to pay if they removed it already then. The code amendment that comes before tonight is geared toward the single family and the duplex lots that we have, because that's the ones that we're starting to see a lot of these kind of cutting down without penalty then. So the code tonight doesn't really impact this one. And yes, if they did go take it down tomorrow, we've got pictures that it was without a permit then, and that would be about a $13,000 penalty they would have to pay then. And
Drew, question?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to this one. In the thing, the mitigation payment for the 52 historic tree live oak is 860105, or the planting of 25 shade trees. Now, I understand they can't put 25 trees on that lot because they're not that big, but they could we agree to allow them to do it throughout their
yeah,
property?
It would be allowed throughout the property itself, the park. They would have that option to put the 25
So
trees.
they don't have to pay the 86, but they would have to get 25 trees somewhere in their entire property.
in a certain size, which kind of gets close to that figure then.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? And I guess, Matt, that comes back to my question. Would it make sense, and Tim, you tell me, you chime in too, would it make sense for us to, if we go ahead and deny this tonight, to get, to go ahead and say that we would accept this, but we would not mitigate the payment, or does staff need a chance to take a look and see if that's acceptable?
Will we process another application? I mean, I don't think there'd be any reason to bring it twice to them, so I would be okay with a conditional, just from a legal standpoint.
That would still, if they're making the request to take it down, we still got to bring it before council
Yeah.
for the approval and to accept the mitigation payment then.
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to cut through what we do as government sometimes.
So we can't put that.
No.
but we've got the report pretty much written. If it comes back, it's a quick kind of fix there, so it shouldn't take too much staff time.
Okay. Very good. May I have a motion for approval to deny the permit?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments or questions? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bashir.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us citizen participation. Chris Salcop, President CEO, Volusia Flagler Family YMCA.
Thank you, ladies
Hold up
and
your
gentlemen.
mask.
Oh, UCF mask?
UCF white
Proud,
mask.
proud graduate?
I can't imagine why that would appeal to
There's
me.
some up
Yeah,
there.
not at all.
Take them home.
Well, I'm Chris Silcop, CEO for the Volusia Flagler YMCA. With me is Kent Bailey. Kent is past board chair for the YMCA and also on our finance committee. He's my fact checker. We're coming for you tonight out of request to alter our current lease with the city of Port Orange. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a adverse, and I could say financially devastating impact on our YMCA. Right now, we're losing about $171,000 a month. This trend cannot continue, obviously, for any business. Currently, we have a lease with the city of Port Orange that actually is escalating every year. It increases. And my request, and I've met with Jake Johansson about this, is a 50% cut to our lease for next year, and 2 months waived rent lease payment for this year for the 2 months that we were closed. So next year, our lease escalates to $19,121.08 a month. And we're asking to have it brought down to $9,560.54 a month as a relief to us. That branch currently, right now, is running $160,000 behind budget. And this request is the same request I'm actually having for the city of DeLand and also the city of Edgewater. But we feel that for us to get back on our feet and get back going, we need some help and some relief with some of our hard costs. And this is one of them that we think would help us get back, hopefully, on our feet for next year. Now, let's say, and we had a discussion that once we get back on our feet and we're able to pay, we'd be more happy to get back to our full rate before the end of next year if that comes to pass.
Jake, if we are to talk about doing something like this, first off, I know that a lot of our costs when we determined what we wanted to charge in the lease had to do with our costs of holding and operating the building. Is there a possibility maybe that the two of you could talk something and bring back to us that whatever we reduce, we could tack on to the end of the lease as an extension so that we can still be made whole with our investment in you and you can achieve what you want? Is that a possibility? You guys can maybe talk about something like that and then bring it back to us?
So to take the 50% now and tack it on to later years in addition to the increases that are already there.
Yep.
I don't think we'd have to bring it back to you if that's what you want to do. We can just figure out where to sprinkle the money in after 2022. Well, we'd have to bring back a new lease. Yeah, we can bring a new lease back to you, but
whatever, even if that's just a matter of months, whatever it is, to make sure that we recoup the cash, because it's certainly in your interest to make sure that we're able to maintain the facility you operate in.
Correct.
So that would be something that we haven't discussed yet. You know, the question, and it sounds like the direction you're leaning, Mayor, is the question is, do you want the Y here, or do you want something else? There's other people that are willing to take it, but if you want the Y here, I can work with Chris and come up with a plan to keep the city whole in the long run. Now, I talked to Chris about this on the phone as well. The city is not overwhelmed with revenue either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you all realize that by doing this, we're adjusting the fee schedule basically and losing a little bit of revenue, a lot of revenue. So keep that in mind as some of our projects either don't get done or otherwise get delayed until we can figure it out. But having said that, I'm game for it, and we can make anything work out. So if that's what you want to do, we can do that.
We'll make sure we hear. I want to make sure we hear from everybody up here. But before we do, I had another question for you. Have you approached Volusia County because they've got a certain number of COVID-19 dollars for nonprofits?
Yes, we have approached them to the level that we're allowed to do it to our size, but yes.
Okay.
And we've also gone to the SBA, got a $150,000 loan over 30 years, 2.75%, and we also applied for the PPP, and we were granted that also.
And that's important for us to know that you've done your due diligence in other regards.
Well, and we've also cut expenses. I'll let you know that today I had to cut 15 full-time staff. That's 40% of our full-time staff.
At just this facility or
The
all
entire
Volusia
association,
Plaza?
all Volusia. This
Okay.
facility, we had to cut 3. So this is, I need to tell you, this is an extinction level event for the
Yep.
YMCA nationwide. We estimate 20% of the YMCA's will go under. That's about 160 associations across the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing my best, and so is Kent, to make sure that we're not one of the 20%.
Marilyn?
One of the questions I was going to ask is, at the current rate of $19,000 for rent, what does that work out square foot wise?
That works out to $5.3, $5.30 per square foot. But I can tell you that rate on the current income we have, it jumps. 10 years ago, this rent we were paying to the city was 7% of our budget. Now the rent we pay to the city is 14% of our budget. So what's happened is that the rent has escalated, but honestly, our revenue has declined.
Does the Y have a contingency fund or rainy day fund?
We do not. The YMCA has been operating with very low margin over the last number of years. Last year we were able to be in the black, but year before that we were not. So we do not have a rainy day fund at this time.
What steps have your board taken to support you and to raise additional funds?
Well, last year we actually raised the most money ever. Yeah, we've raised over $400,000, and we were on pace this year to surpass that mark in March when we were shut down. So the board has been very supportive and done a very good job in supporting the changes. Now, on the other side, operation and revenue, we also recognize we have to change the way we operate. So a few things we're doing, we're going to 24 hours. So we started that in Holly Hill and Southeast on September 1st. Port Orange kicks in October 1st to member access to 24 hours. We're going to change our membership structure, change how we do a third parties like Florida Healthcare, Silver Sneakers. They have been challenging to our membership stream. And so we need to change from a business standpoint how we deal with them and what services we provide in exchange. So we're looking at our business model all the way through, and we have a number of changes making not only in Port Orange but in other branches, because we're an all-for-one organization. So hopefully we can get enough of them to be sustainable to help the ones who aren't. And that's kind of how we work in everything that we do. We have people who pay membership and raise money, and that helps pay for the people who can't afford a membership, who we subsidize for youth sports, swim lessons. So the programs that make money offset the programs that lose money, like teen programs, things of that nature.
Is Port Orange sustainable? One of your sustainable units?
It has been. It is not now. In fact, now I don't have any that are sustainable. All 7 are in the red.
Where does it sit in your list of non-sustainable units? It's probably one of the better ones. Okay.
In being sustainable. It's probably the top one. It's one of the more dependable branches financially. Them, and then Southeast sometimes. Camp Winona, depending on the year, holds its own water. So some branches make money, some branches don't. That's kind of how it works in the YMCA world.
I understand your business model, but I guess the question for me should be, why should Port Orange residents and taxpayers be the cash cow to support underperforming Y branches?
Well, because they're not always that way. Some other communities have they put their chip on the table also and have tried to do what they can in their community. But that's just a decision you have to make, is a YMCA viable in your community? Are the 7,200 members that we serve, is that of value? Are the swim lessons we teach, is that of value? The youth sports, the child care, the summer camp. During COVID-19, when everyone shut down, we were open. We had contracts with Halifax Health providing child care for their staff. Is that of value? That's a question you have to answer. I cannot answer that for you.
Where did you come up with the proposal for 50% rent into next year?
Because when I look at what our downturn is right now, I believe that will get that branch to a break-even standpoint. Again, and I'm trying to forecast unfamiliar territory here, so I can only go off our past couple of months in our forecast.
What if you do better? Are you willing to adjust it?
Yes, and Jake and I have talked about that.
Those are my questions. I'll have comments at the end of this.
Chase?
And what's the extension of your ask again?
It'd be $9,560 per month reduced
For how long?
for 2021, or until we can get back on our feet and pay the full amount again.
What happens at the end of 21 and we're still here? That's a
You're
question nobody knows.
You're going to be giving that building to somebody else.
What's the current activity like?
It's picking up. So what we saw activity-wise, a very good question. The first 3 weeks during the pandemic after we opened up, we saw an increase. And then for the next two months, increase flattened off. In the past 3 weeks, we've seen a dramatic increase. So what we give you example numbers. So for the longest time, we were at about 7,500 member visits per week through the entire association. 2 weeks ago, that jumped up to about 8,000, and last week it jumped up to 9,000. So we're definitely seeing an increase of attendance at all of our facilities. Program-wise is where we're getting hurt. So our program revenue is down 48% across the association compared to last year. Summer camp, of course, parents didn't have a job or they were concerned about putting the kids into it. Youth sports is one of the biggest areas that we've seen hit so far. Last year we had 800 kids in youth basketball. This year we had 320. So member attendance is getting better. We'll see if program attendance gets any better. That's yet to be determined.
And what was the, when I hear you open in 24 hours, that creates an additional cost too. So have you seen revenue go up because of that, or is that
That
at a risk?
does not create additional salary costs. It creates upfront costs with some security cameras, some wiring of the front door, but that's going to be a card swipe. You swipe, door opens up, camera comes on, we record you if you're the one coming through or somebody else, and then you can use the facility. So
You're not gonna have any staff there?
no, we will not have staff there.
All right, my initial thought is, gosh, the YMCA, I've always viewed personally as the YMCA as an extension of our Parks and Rec. I see the value that it brings to the community. I saw it in my own personal family. My dad was did a lot of recovery in there. It's a special place, and particularly to a lot of our seniors. I'm not willing to throw it away, but I share Maryland's concerns on putting it on the taxpayers to do that. However, I'm willing to look at it as a deferment to recoup that later on as it becomes profitable, and I'm willing to give it a year. Then at the end of the year we're up, then we're back here, then we have other options. But I'm willing to support that at this time.
Drew?
So with the 24-hour access, you probably are going to see some increased costs with electricity and utilities and things. Is it? I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to do business, but is it wise to have somebody come into a building that large? That's a big building, and if you're going to monitor them properly, you're going to need cameras everywhere.
We're shutting down the footprint of the building. So you only have access to the wellness center. And in Port Orange facility, that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you have bathrooms right there. So we've shut down the doors to the group X. We have a storm door that closes the hallway there, if you don't know if you've noticed, but that comes down also.
Okay.
So we've shrunk the footprint down. That was one of the things that
Okay.
I did in phases for the branches, because I had to make sure they don't have access to the pools, because I don't want someone in the pool at 3 a.m. sneaking in
So
there.
they won't have access to the big locker rooms?
Nope.
The hallway?
Nope.
The office space there?
Nope.
The pools, the gymnasium?
Nope.
The basketball courts? It
Just
would
the
just be
wellness
the
center.
health
Yep.
part?
I hate to say it, but I probably would not have let my Y membership lapse if this was available at the time I had to make a decision.
Yeah, I just hate to, I know it's tough on you guys, but it's hard to obligate the taxpayers to potentially not getting that money back. I would hope that would not happen, but.
They go out of
it's a-
business, the taxpayers aren't getting
Yeah,
squat.
it's a big risk, so, I just don't, not sure how I'm gonna go on this one, cause it is it's a large ask, and I know we're in difficult times, but.
And there are businesses all over this country making asks of their landlords like this all over the place.
Yeah.
Scott?
I've got some concerns, and I'm definitely not interested in voting on this tonight for sure, because I need to understand how this would even be laid out, better understand the risk, because I definitely have concerns about that risk. It's a big ask, and as a side concern, I guess you would call it, is that the YMCA business model has really struggled for several years now, way before COVID, and And a lot of the concern that I have with the Port Orange branch, because I sat on that board many, many years ago, was that that facility has been utilized a lot to prop up and supplement other facilities around the Volusia Flagler area, which is why they don't have a reserve fund or the rainy day fund Marilyn was talking about. And that's concerning, and I'm a little bit familiar with the model, not intricately, but enough to know that it's tough for these facilities to make it, much less try to support other facilities. So I've got a lot of concerns about that. I definitely need to better understand the risk, because we're talking about a 6-figure risk, if I'm calculating right, for the residents. And if the YMCA has to shut down, then there's no return on that money that's already been obligated back to the taxpayers and for the budget. So that's a pretty big thing. So I do want to, as this comes back before us for consideration and a vote, I definitely want to have more information as to what has this particular Y done in terms of, and I may be asking that question wrong, but as far as applying and receiving grants and loans with all of the resources that are available, both countywide, state, and federally, because of this COVID thing. You threw out a number, you said 150,000 in a loan?
Yeah, that was the SBA, Small Business Administration.
And was that for Volusia Flagler holistically, or
Yes.
just for this facility?
No, everything we do is for the entire association.
Okay. Yeah.
So
And
that
I
was
think
for
that's
that.
important for us to remember is, we certainly want to see every organization and every business and every entity in the city of Port Orange succeed. But to some degree, or a large degree, they have to do it on their own merit. I mean, they have to have a business model and a plan. There has to be, a support for that. And so, this is not something I think we can just go there on a whim. I think, at least for me.
No, there's no way we can, what I would like is for all of us to comment. We give instructions to the city
Yeah.
manager on what we'd like to negotiate, and then we will come back after we've had a chance to chew on what you guys can hash out and make a decision.
Yeah, and historically, just for those that are following along, the city of Port Orange has done a lot of things for this particular YMCA that other cities have not done, in terms of purchasing equipment and stuff like that. So, and I'm sure there's probably other things cities do that maybe we haven't done, but it's not like the city itself, the city government hasn't been incredibly supportive.
It's been a long and strong partnership, I would
of the
think.
Y, yeah.
I think you could categorize it as such. Jake, what I'd like you to do is see what you can work out in terms of the requested deferments, but I'd like not through the end of 2021, but through 12 months to match up with our fiscal year, October 1st to September 30th. Well, starting now through the end of September 30th of next year, and then bring something formally back to us with some sort of extension at the end that adds our ability to recoup our funds through length of contract extension, if possible.
What was the request for half for how long?
Until the end of 2021. Or, go ahead.
And you want it to go till when?
September 30th of next year.
So September, not December.
I think.
Is that?
Yep, that's
I'm
my
just asking
feeling.
for clarification.
I think you'll know in 12 months whether you're going to make it or not.
By the
And if we
time
have to have
get
another
this-
conversation,
By
we
the
will.
time we get the contract written, it'll be November, end of October, November.
Oh, so you were saying you want to start earlier than that? Okay, all right. I was thinking January 1 to December, but if you want to start it earlier, then we can go
So,
like
yeah,
November.
he
I'd
asked
like to run a
something.
12-month period.
Okay, all right.
A
Whatever
12-month
that is,
period.
at whatever point we can start.
And the next 2 months, did he ask for free or gratis? You want me to include that and add it to the end as well? Do you want to say no to that?
I
today,
want our
or-
dollars at the end, whatever that is, whatever you can negotiate.
You see what I'm asking for, right? I'm just
Yeah.
asking for clarification. You want me to take his request as it is provided to me and make sure we recoup all the money that he's asking for somewhere down the line
Mm-hmm.
within a 12-month period? Or before the end of 21?
Marilyn?
Well, I think what we're giving you is input. You've got to make the best deal of what we're saying.
I don't want
Yeah.
to do all that work and all that legal work and bring it up to you, and this has happened before, and have it say, that is not what we asked for.
Well, the
I
Y's
wanna
ask is
make
for
sure.
a calendar year. right?
It was, but we can change it to a fiscal year, change it to a 12-month period,
He's
that's
asking
fine.
for 2 months free,
That's fine.
and then half a month from January to December of '21. I can work that into a deal, but he's asking for half a month's rent for 2021. So I can, but it doesn't make sense to start the payback in 2021. The payback would have to start
At the end
in
of the contract
2022.
term.
Well, not necessarily. He indicated, Mr. Salkoff, that they may be, I said, where did you get the
We-
50% figure? And he said they may do better.
And
my
we will
comment
add
is,
that.
you could think about the contract having language as somewhat elastic, so the floor rent is 50%.
Haven't gotten to that
But
yet.
it goes up next year if they end up producing more income in any particular month.
Haven't gotten to that part yet. I'm just clarifying the timeline for the ask and the payback. Now, that part can be added into the contract as well, if they do better. Now, having said that, we because we don't have anybody on the board, and they don't report their finances, and they have no obligation to report their finances,
That's what I'm
we have no knowledge to know.
Well, we put that in the contract. The other thing I'm gonna suggest, we make, Mr. Salkoff has indicated they've asked the other cities. I only want Port Orange to give in the proportion or contingent based on what is given in the other cities.
So-
Why should we again be the big cash cow?
I can
So
tell you
does he-
last night, Edgewater approved about a 70% forgiveness
but-
completely without paying it back.
But I don't wanna go above it. I mean, those are some things
I think by
that
the time it comes back to us, we'll have a pretty good grasp on what's going on elsewhere as well for
I
us to
guess,
consider.
so what I don't want to do is get my finance department to be in the business of managing their finances.
Mhm.
And this is what happened before, or this is what happened last time, is he has virtually no employees. So is the first thing he's gonna do when he starts going in the green, he makes $5,000, is he gonna write a check to us? Or is he gonna hire back an employee? And what are we gonna do on the dais? Are we gonna go, how dare you do that? We told you as soon as you started making money to give it. So I don't wanna write a contract that I can't enforce, but I wanna write one that you all want and are comfortable with.
Agreed.
Well, that goes to what I was gonna raise as a point of order. During citizen participation, this ask, you've alerted us what you wanna do, but there are so many details and aspects that still need to be worked out. It's imprudent for us to take a vote, and it may be imprudent for us to take a vote in a month. And my
However,
final
things
thing-
like this have passed 5-0 without comment before, so.
That's true.
Okay.
Well, but this
Question,
one
question,
isn't.
window.
And the final thing I would say is, I'm not in favor of increasing this contract any longer than what its current out year is. I think that payback needs to be, you make up what we've forgiven or we've reduced. It's almost like a balloon mortgage. You end up paying more in the out years, because I don't wanna get stuck extending this only to have them not be able to meet that obligation again, quite honestly.
How are we gonna guarantee that? We can't.
You
Well,
vote no.
we can't.
I got, are you done,
Yeah,
Mary?
I'm
I didn't
done.
wanna, got another question. When, I'm not clear on when the repayment period you're asking for. When are you gonna start? At the end of the contract? When do you expect to start paying back?
That's up to,
This wasn't discussed before, so we haven't
So we
spoken about that.
we don't know
yet.
any of that, okay.
I think we need to give the city manager some latitude in negotiations, because right now this is just an ask and a discussion item. It may come back, he may bring this back for further questions and discussion
Okay.
with us during city manager comments.
Definitely.
We may be giving him more feedback during those comments. And at that, when it's ready to bring forward in something that's acceptable to us, then we'll vote on it. Certainly not tonight, and certainly not until it is.
Council, can I recommend that while we work this, that we at least give them the grace of not paying rent for September? Have you paid September yet? September, October.
We probably have, no, we have not paid September. Well, we may have paid September. I have to check
Well,
this.
the-
He's
the
paid
next-
month ahead.
Are you,
Through either September's and October's or through October's.
are you
And
doing-
with the agreement that they're gonna pay it back eventually somehow. Even if the rest of it falls apart, that we'll figure out a way to get the money back.
We are paid up.
Yeah, okay, that was gonna,
Yes,
so
we
there
are.
are no current
I have no
delinquencies?
problem with
None.
that. Anybody have a problem with that?
What do we normally do when we have somebody that owes us money that doesn't pay it? They go in arrears.
We try to get the money back. If we don't, which this is the why, I'm sure
Right.
we'll figure out how to get the money back. We have a parent corporation we can,
Well, the only
Leverage,
thing I'm
and then
looking
we-
for is, I don't want just this general consensus, we'll forgive it. I want something in writing where they acknowledge that, that
If-
it is contingent on coming to an agreement. Or the most we're gonna forgive
if you agree,
is 2
we will write,
months.
if you agree, we will write an agreement that allows them to not pay while we work on the long contract.
I don't support that.
And
figure out how to get our
and
money
that
back.
we'll get the money back, whether,
Yes.
whether it's in the next contract or separate from that.
I don't support that.
That we'll get the month of no pay,
Okay.
just to give them a little breathing room. Or
We
not.
have your ask. The city manager has his direction from us. I'm sure he's in conversation with you, gonna have more questions of us in the future. And we're gonna give it a go, and let's see what we can do.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Citizen participation non-agenda. Robin, do I have any?
Just Robert.
Online, Robert Reinhagen.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Exeter Drive North, Port Orange. The Florida Department of Transportation is holding a public hearing with regard to the Interstate 95 Pioneer Trail interchange. It's scheduled for September 30th, and it's being held in New Smyrna Beach. The current preferred alternative consists of a partial cloverleaf interchange at Pioneer Trail. Currently, they have said that they consider a full cloverleaf interchange to be too expensive. I lost my piece of paper. I think that a full cloverleaf is absolutely essential, because a full cloverleaf enables the exit and entry to the interchange to be without crossing any other street. There's no crossing, so that means there will be no need for traffic lights. And as our experience here with Dunlawton at that interchange, there's lots of traffic lights that create terrible problems. And so I would recommend or ask the city council to go forward with some sort of unified position, asking for a full cloverleaf at that interchange. If we don't get a full interchange, full cloverleaf now, it's never gonna happen, because land will be absolutely inaccessible. And we see that here at Port Orange, at Dunlawton, where there's hotels going up, and emergency room, a standalone emergency room, taking up the land that could have been used for a cloverleaf. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Robin, did I have any others?
I did not receive any others.
Okay. Council comments? Marilyn?
None.
Chase?
Just a quick thought in light of the discussion with the Y. I'd just like to encourage our Parks and Rec just to have a real good understanding. I'm sure they do, but just have a really good understanding of all the services and amenities that are offered at the YMCA. Should it become a situation where the YMCA does close down, it does serve a lot of people in Port Orange, and I just want to have an alternative for in the event that something like that does occur, and we are prepared to absorb it and offer, at the very least, comparable services in our new community center, which will be positioned to take over a lot of that stuff should that unfortunate thing happen to the Y.
Drew?
I don't have anything tonight.
Scott?
Nothing for me tonight.
It is amazing, as mayor, I've learned that when things go well, I get too much of the credit. When things don't go so well, I get too much of the blame. And that goes with the territory, and this is probably one where I'm getting way too much of the credit. But I received a letter from the Florida Department of Transportation in regards to our participation in Operation Vision Zero. Dear Don, on behalf of the Florida Department of Transportation and Alert Today Florida, I would like to personally thank you for taking part in Operation Vision Zero that was held in February and March of this year. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, I am unable to thank you in person. However, in recognition of participation, please find the enclosed Vision Zero Hero Award. So, Jake, I wanted to mention this publicly and thank everyone. I know that it was not just public safety, but public works and a number of departments that worked. And the whole idea of the Operation Vision Zero was to promote awareness of the other people that use our roads. We have pedestrians, we have bicyclists, and the whole idea is to promote safety for all on the road. And we will continue to participate in these things. And Jake, if you would, please forward my thank you to staff for their hard work and consideration whenever it is we do these things.
Sure.
That's all I've got. Brings us to Eastport CRA meeting. I'm going to temporarily pass the gavel to Mr. Bastian for opening the Eastport CRA meeting.
Oh yeah, it's just us. We don't have Stan and them here tonight, so I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Eastport Business Center Community Redevelopment Agency to order. Can we call the roll, please?
Member John Burnett.
Yes.
Member Drew Bastian.
Here, yes?
Scott Stiltner.
Here?
Member Chase Tremont.
Here.
Member Marilyn Ford.
Yes, or here.
Standard on this one?
Do I have an objection to the notice of the meeting? Hearing no objection, the notice is accepted. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 17th, 2020 meeting of the Town Center CRA?
That should say Eastport.
Oh, yes, of the Eastport Redevelopment Agency.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Member Burnett.
Yes.
Member Stiltner.
Yes.
Member Tremont.
Yes.
Member Ford.
Yes.
Chairman Bastian.
Yes. Item 3 is a where am I? Here we go. Item 3 is a resolution number 20-1, proposed Eastport Business Center CRA tax increment district fiscal year 21 operating budget.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to read the resolution into the record for a motion?
Absolutely.
Resolution number 20-1 for Eastport is a resolution of the Community Development Agency for Eastport Business Center, Volusia County, Florida, recommending adoption of the tentative Eastport tax increment district operating budget for fiscal year October 1st, 2020 through September 30th of 2021, setting forth anticipated sums of revenue in the estimated amount of $248,113, setting forth expenditures in an equivalent amount, providing for amendments, providing for appropriation and procedures, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Don. I'd like to ask for a motion by the CRA on item 3, resolution number 20-1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'll read it. Move to approve resolution number 20-1, ordinance number 2020-27, approving the Eastport Business Center CRA tax increment district fiscal year 21 operating budget as recommended by the Planning Commission. We received a motion and a second. I'll ask comments of the CRA. Any comments on this? Hearing none. ask for public comments on this item. No public comments. Final comments from CRA prior to the vote, if any? Final comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Member Burnett?
Yes?
Member Stiltner?
Yes.
Member Tremont?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Chairman Bastian?
Yes. Any further business to be brought before the members of the Eastport Business Center Redevelopment Agency? Hearing nothing. There being none, this meeting is adjourned, and I'll turn back over to Mayor Burnett.
In which case, we will now move on to the Town Center CRA meeting as council remains in recess. The chair is Ray Donadio. He is still in Ohio, so I am going to pass the gavel down, all the way down, to the vice chair, Mr. Stan Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we need to do a roll call on this?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Don Burnett?
Yes, here.
Drew Bastian?
Here.
Scott Stiltner?
Here.
Chase Tremont?
Here.
Marilyn Ford?
Yes. Or here.
Stan Schmidt?
Here.
Ray Donadio?
Thank you. Do I have any objection to the notice of the meeting? Hearing no objection, the notice is accepted. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 17th and August 19th meetings of the Town Center Community Redevelopment Agency?
So moved.
Second.
May I have a second? We have one. Please call the roll.
Member Burnett?
Yes.
Member Bastian?
Yes.
Member Stiltner?
Yes.
Member Tremont?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schmidt?
Yes. Okay, item number 3 is Resolution 20-1, the proposed Town Center CRA Tax Increment District Fiscal Year 21 operating budget.
Mr. Chair, if it's so please you, I'll go ahead and read that into the record.
You may have a whack at it.
Resolution number 20-1 for the Town Center is a resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency for Port Orange Town Center, Volusia County, Florida, recommending adoption of the tentative Town Center Tax Increment District operating budget for fiscal year October 1st, 2020 through September 30th of 2021, setting forth anticipated revenues or revenue in the estimated amount of $472,758, setting forth expenditures in an equivalent amount, providing for amendments, providing for appropriation and procedures, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the item number 3, Resolution 20-1?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments of the CRA? I guess we got to vote on this one right away. Any comments on this? Any public comments on this? Okay, hearing no comments, please call the roll.
Member Burnett?
Yes?
Member Bastian?
Yes.
Member Stiltner?
Yes.
Member Tremont?
Yes.
Member Ford?
Yes.
Vice Chair Schmidt?
Yes. Any further business to be brought before the members of the Town Center Redevelopment Agency? There being none, this meeting is adjourned.
Nicely done, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Dan.
Yes, sir.
That's okay. We're
No, it's all yours.
That's okay.
You only get so far around. Council back in action. Board appointments, interviews, and reports. This is Advisory Committee for the TPO. Mr. Bobby Ball. We gotta get you a mask with a design on it.
Yeah, my mom made that one, so this is.
Oh.
You know, you gotta get the brownie points.
You can't get away from mom.
Bobby Ball with the CAC for the TPO. We had our monthly meeting, and again, the focus is really on the long-range transportation plan right now. And now they actually have the plan posted. It wasn't posted last month when I came before you, but if you go to the River to Sea TPO website and you hit on the tab for long-range transportation plan, it's tab number 6. I think it's called the appropriately transportation plan. So you can actually see everything about it, the unfunded and the funded plan. And so now's the time to provide comment. I mean, anytime is a good time to provide comment. The other item that was really talked about was the 5-year TIP, which programmed money for the right-of-way for the Pioneer Trail to Mocha Farms Road improvements at that intersection. And then beyond that, a little bit of discussion, well, a lot of presentations, but the one to point out was talking about the annual call for projects and sort of a discussion about that. staff does a really good job of putting forth Port Orange projects, and I'm on the committee for the ranking of the priorities. So we try to get ourselves in a pretty good position. So with that, any questions or comments?
There being none?
Great.
Bobby, thank you.
Thank you.
Environmental Advisory Board report.
Hello, Council and Mayor.
Hello, hello.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Christine.
How's school?
How's school?
Yeah.
That's my daughter.
Yeah.
Everything is going well. Every day she reports on for the PTA, and so I guess everything.
She's still at Sugar Mill, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
still
good.
at Sugar Mill, doing, reports every day, and my granddaughter is now the captain of the, where they get to go around monitoring everybody. Safety, that's it. Runs in the family. Thank you for asking. I am Christine Cunningham, the chair of the Environmental Advisory Board, and we met on July 27th and August 17th to make up for our previous meeting that had been canceled for our favorite subject of COVID. Our old business was about the brownfield on Williamson, having to do with Advent, and there was an update and a PowerPoint provided to us, a review, and it was also provided to the council. The city forester, Steve Edgar, gave a presentation, and we have been renewed for the 2019 USA Tree City certification, which that is something that we've had for so many years. We did question where the sign is, though, because there used to be a sign that was over by 95 that said we were a tree city, and I think everyone might.
Drew, what'd you do with it?
What'd you do with it?
I think it might have got hit by one of those semis or something turning there or whatever.
Well, we mentioned getting it back because we are very proud of our certification. We spent a whole year working on trees. And we would really like to go forward with the amount of effort it takes to save our trees. Tim's report and staff work hard on making sure we get the point across that it shouldn't be that easy to take down a tree. And I did sympathize with what you were saying regarding we can do what we want by declining a request, but if we don't put some sort of penalty to it, it's really doesn't have teeth. And so, the environmental board and staff have worked really hard at making sure we get that point across to the residents. Then we had been working on single-use plastics. Of course, before the COVID, we were going to be involved in all our city functions and trying to figure out how, much like New Smyrna had, address the issue of pollution with the single-use plastic. So we have continued that, even though we don't know when we're going to have the next function and whether it's the family days or it doesn't matter what it is. We don't know when it's going to change. So we do keep that on our agenda, and we have a time frame of work in progress for that one. Still acquiring information on how we can provide the best products for it as a discussion and help all businesses understand how important that subject is overall to the county and the city. Another project that we just started, and this is something that within the board got some, the more we talked about, the more people liked the idea of wildlife crossing signs. I did a lot of research into how effective they are throughout the world, literally. And they are the most effective and cost-effective item we can help that people understand that an animal is going to cross the roadway. Now, in each different parts of Port Orange, we have ducks on one side, deer on the other. There's no one wildlife area that we're going to focus on. It's getting a collective effort from the residents if they want to contribute towards a sign, and also commercially if we can get people to help sponsor a sign but we've already had quite a bit of interest in that new project. we've got a new blurb in the quarterly newsletter. So we are going to start having our own little section in the newsletter, whether it's to educate. Our first introduction was literally an introduction of who we are. We don't really feel that the residents know we even exist. And so we wanted to get it out there because we couldn't have a tabling event at our events. So this is something that we suggested and we got approval to do it. So we wrote our first little item, and we're also going to, when we need some members, we're going to also reach out to the residents that way as well. And finally, we just really want to focus on reaching the residents. We want people to know we're there. And so with the support of any of our projects, as long as there is a true goal to help the residents, we would bring that to the council for their support as well. Does anybody have any questions?
Comments, questions?
Just a comment, appreciate all that you do. I miss our little chats that we used to have. But I rely on you for a great deal of knowledge, and you always deliver.
We do, and we have a really educated board as far as
Yes, you
what
do.
the local items of concern are. And we really appreciate people's dedication to come to the meetings and to take time to research their items that they would like to discuss. It's become a very integral part of staff, and they come to the meetings, and we work really hard at understanding their point of view as well. If we don't know of a subject that's brought to us by a citizen, we will reach out and have them come to our meetings and explain it to us. And if there's something that we can help advise the citizen to do or understand, we have been actively always finding support within the staff.
We appreciate the energy that your board has really captured in the last couple of years.
Yes, it really has.
true.
And if there's anything that you need to bring to us, that's really important that we work together with you and we know what's going on the other side as well. Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Planning Commission appointments. Before we take nominations, I'd like any of the applicants present to say a word or two that are here in no particular order and just the list that I have them. Mr. Stan Schmidt, could you come forward? I'm just going to call all the names. Stan, I know you reached out to me, said that you wanted to be reappointed. This is your chance to sell us all on it.
So you all on it? Well, I actually contacted all of you, but yeah, I've enjoyed the time working with the Planning Commission, and obviously it's a pretty important board on the city structure overall, and I think I can make some meaningful contributions, and I look forward to serving all of you and the city in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to Stan?
Got any more bread?
The season hasn't started yet,
You can't-
officially.
That might help my decision.
I was going to say, that's
And-
probably a little out of bounds.
This one, you were appointed
Yes. this
midway,
is,
well, not
partial
exactly
term,
midway,
yeah.
partial term, and then,
exactly.
so this would be extending that term.
Yes.
Okay,
Get the full
Yeah.
full whammy here.
yeah, okay.
Let the record show that was sarcasm on helping my decision.
Stan, you
Good
better
point.
walk away before he asks
Yeah,
again.
good point.
Bo's not here, is he? I don't see Bo Buffami.
Lance, no.
Lance is not here. Lance Green. I do see Tom Jordan. Come on up, Tom.
Do we really want to listen to this guy talk?
These are the those were the four names of the people we're currently serving.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity. I think I've served on the Planning Commission for close to 10 years now, I guess. Been quite
It's
a
almost
few.
long enough to draw a paycheck.
Is it?
Oops.
Sounds
No.
good.
Not in the budget.
Not so sarcasm.
Yeah.
I must have said it twice.
Not even going to go there with that. I've tried to do a job to watch out for what the existing citizens want to see in Port Orange to make it a better community, and to really do something that everybody likes here in Port Orange, that people want to be living here and enjoying what they have, and protect the folks, excuse me, protect the folks that are trying to bring new things in and that are property owners, and allow them to do what they want to do within the rules of the city of Port Orange.
Questions of Tom?
Are you good with the current compensation package? Because we can't increase it at all.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to ask. I saw what happened to the last guys that did that here, so. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Tom. Appreciate you serving.
And the other, Deborah of Quackenbush, Mike Arminio, and Richard
I
Barker.
don't see any of them.
Okay, those are the 7
It's all right.
applicants.
Mayor, just real quick, I didn't have an opportunity to talk to Robin. I talked to Richard Barker, and he's withdrawn his name.
Okay.
It's from 2019.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 6
2019,
applicants.
And he doesn't have the time right now to do it.
Okay.
Robin, what was the clarification on Mr. Arminio?
I sent you his 2019 application as well. I had mistakenly added his old application from 2007. We never heard back from him on whether he wants to withdrawals be
He-
involved or not, so.
Didn't he say he had
He's.
he had an install tonight? I saw something somewhere that
Well,
said he was
Cindy
busy
reached
tonight.
out to him, on, I think, Facebook, but, he still didn't reply as far as this board goes.
That's
He
correct.
talked about the environmental advisory board, but he.
That's
he
correct, the
hasn't-
environment. that's
Yeah,
right.
did-
Yeah.
So he's
But he
not,
wasn't putting his
he's not
name in
withdrawn
for
from
this.
consideration,
I
he's
just-
not,
I don't know.
okay.
But he already serves on the EAB.
I think he was appointed.
Yeah.
He was appointed,
We
yeah.
currently
I remember that from, yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So you have 6 names to consider, we have 4 positions.
Okay, so Ms. Quackenbush, her application is from 19. Do we know if she's currently
Yes,
interested? Okay.
she responded and wants to say yes.
Okay.
We always reach out and especially if they're a year or so old, when they, because we'll take any application and hold it
Okay.
until there's an opening. or
Okay,
a
so that,
reappointment.
gotcha.
I'll open nominations now. If we have more than 4 nominations, then we'll whip out the paper ballots.
Mayor, just a comment real quick, and then maybe, I guess, a nomination, but one of the things that I really appreciate about the current composition of this board is that in the far past, if I can describe it, is that it seemed like almost the board was exclusively contractor folks or folks of a contractor mindset or builders or what have you, or at least dominantly. One of the really nice things about this particular board is they're kind of, it's a great mixture. Not everybody is in that. There's a few on there, like Lance, for example. He brings a wealth of knowledge for that, but yet not everybody on the board is a contractor or builder or in that mindset. And so when you watch their meetings, they have a lot of really great, productive discussion. So I think as this board has evolved, and I'm not knocking any of the past boards, I'm just saying as this board has evolved and it's gotten that mix, it's been really good to see that, because I think we ultimately get a really good product out of that. And they certainly do a ton of work on a lot of big projects way before it gets so. My recommendation would be to nominate the 4 existing that are still interested in serving on the board, and let's leave the continuity of that board as it is currently.
And that's what my recommendation is gonna be. I'll make the motion if we can't, but I'd move to appoint all 4 that wish to be reappointed.
Mr. Stan Schmidt, Bo Bafomi, Mr. Lance Green, and Tom Jordan.
Yes, sir.
That's your nomination?
Yes, sir.
Did we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do I have other nominations?
I just have a comment, Mayor.
Me too.
Mhm.
I asked the city clerk, Stan Schmidt has served 1 term, Mr. Bafami 2 terms, Lance Green 7 terms, Thomas Jordan 5 terms. And we have some, Mr. Arminio has served on other boards. Ms. Quackenbush, I've seen her name before. I do think it is valuable to provide opportunities for citizens who want to get involved to be on boards. I had looked at Mr. Barker, who's now since withdrawn his name because of his construction background, which I thought would be healthy. And I was gonna recommend not reappointing Lance Green, only because he served so long and he is sitting on another board. All that is to say, I will accept the nomination that's been placed, or the 4 people that have been placed in, but I would like council to remember we close off citizen interests when we don't entertain new people, and we always go to the issue of continuity. You know, there is a cost to that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just add one comment. Good comments made by everybody. But my compliments to the current board. I can't tell you how many times I've had a phone call in to you know, Tom and Stan and Newton and Lance. So it's always great to get a variety of responses and opinions. You know, I'll watch their meetings, particularly if it's a big issue coming before us, but I like making the personal phone call. I appreciate their availability and their willingness to discuss and their knowledge that they bring to the table. Very beneficial in a lot of my decision making in the past. Sometimes I've agreed, sometimes I've not, but every time I get a new angle of looking at it. So I second the Councilman Stiltner's comments about the diversity up there of backgrounds. It's very beneficial to my decision making up here. So I agree with the motion, but I also agree with Councilwoman Ford. I don't want to get in a situation where people are
We don't want to
disenchanted.
stagnate.
Exactly. I don't want people to get to a situation where they're not willing to volunteer anymore because they're not having an opportunity to.
Any other nominations? Nominations are now closed. Any other comments? No other comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Wait till you see our new benefit plan. You're rehired. Gentlemen, thank you for your service, and for the others that are not present that we reappointed, I appreciate their service as well. We rely on the Planning Commission just as much as we do any of our boards. This one is vital to us to make sure that the vetting process occurs. And there are many times people will ask me, well, your Planning Commission said no to it and you said yes to it. Well, a lot of the reasons is because somebody who's building something takes that valuable input from what was wrong and why they said no and comes back to us. So we're not necessarily voting on the same thing. They bringing to us the feedback they received from that no from the Planning Commission. And sometimes even in the yes votes, they'll continue to improve the project with that feedback, so we get an even better project by the time it comes to council, and that's why we have a Planning Commission. With that, we move to the public hearing portion of our meeting. Item 21A is second reading of ordinance 20-27. Ordinance number 20-27 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, approving the Second Amendment to the Riverwalk amended and restated Master Development Agreement, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ordinance is open and on the floor for discussion. Second reading. Comments, questions, council?
It's 21, right?
There being none, 21A.
Yeah.
Anyone here from the public here to speak to the item? There being none, final comments, council? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
No.
Councilmember Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 3-2. Item 21B is recommended motion is to approve the Second Amendment to the Property Exchange and Escrow Agreement for the Cardwell Funeral Home property. May I have said motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Item is open on the floor for discussion. Council comments or questions? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
No.
Councilmember Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 3-2. Item 21C is the approval of the Second Amendment to the Economic Development Incentive Agreement. Need a motion to approve that.
Move to approve Second Amendment to the Economic Development Incentive Agreement with Halifax River Partners.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The item's open on the floor for discussion. Council comments or questions? There being none, would anyone care here to speak to the item? Council, final comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
No.
Councilmember Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 3-2. 21D is approval of the license agreement for temporary off-site parking located at 3571 Ridgewood Avenue.
Move to approve the license agreement for temporary off-site parking located at 3571 Ridgewood Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Council comments or questions? Anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments, council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
No.
Councilmember Stiltner.
No.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 3-2. Item 21E is approval of the design agreement for Riverwalk Park Trail Phase 3. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. The item is properly motioned and second up on the floor and open for discussion. Council comments or questions? Would
I'd
anyone-
say, sorry.
Go ahead.
You know.
I was on a roll, you know.
I know, but just to, so I'm, I see the benefit of what's happened. I didn't support the extension, but Councilwoman Ford made a great comment when we first hashed this out. You know, don't cut off your nose to spite your face, and that almost, you know, convinced me to turn around. But I felt it was prudent to send a message that I think we mean business as a council. We don't want to be experiencing this again. But this is a great benefit, and I'm happy to see that staff is able to negotiate this and they're willing to do this.
Any other council comments or questions? Would anyone here care to speak to the item? Final comments, council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. That brings us to item 22. Item 22A is the second reading of ordinance number 20-28. Ordinance number 2020-28 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 9, Article 2, and Chapter 13, relating to updating requirements for tree protection and preservation, landscaping requirements, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-28.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Second reading. Council comments or questions? Would anyone care here to speak to the item? There being none, final comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
No.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Item 22B is resolution number 20-45, a resolution of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, adopting list of approved landscape materials, providing for conflicting resolutions, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve resolution number 20-45.
Second.
We have a motion, a proper second. The item's open and on the floor for discussion. Council, questions or comments? There being none, anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments, council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to item 22C, resolution number 20-46. Resolution of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, adopting mitigation tables for historic tree removal on the residential and non-residential properties, providing for conflicting resolutions and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve resolution 20-46.
Second.
Thought I might have to ask for a second there. The item is open and on the floor with a proper motion and second for discussion. Council comments or questions? There being none, anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments or questions, council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stillman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bashir.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Item 23 is the second reading of ordinance 20-29, which is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 42, Article 2, Section 42-26, D and E by deleting reference to 1 acre or less, providing for an owner of a lot to maintain it regardless of its size, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-29.
Second.
We have a motion and a proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Second reading. Council comments or questions? There being none, anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments, council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stillman.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bashir.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 5-0. That brings us to item 24, which is first reading of ordinance number 2020-31. An ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Land Development Code, chapters 2, 16, and 17, updating the definition for atypical lots and typical fencing allowed on an atypical lot and special setbacks for AC units, pergola, and gazebo, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-31.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
We have a motion and a proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Penny, you want to tell us what we're talking about here?
Yeah, good evening, Penelope Cruz Planning. So as you read, this ordinance addresses a couple different items. When it comes to accessory structures, we've got a revised definition for atypical lots, then also how the design options for fences on atypical lots, new definitions and standards for gazebos and pergolas, and then just kind of a catch-all in case we don't think of anything in the future. So the first one is basically just taking out of the current definition of atypical lots, common area that doesn't include a water body 100 feet wide. So it's basically just limiting that definition to a lot that fronts a road on one end and either a water body that's 100 foot wide or a golf course within the same subdivision. Over the past 20 years, a lot of the subdivisions have more and more common areas that are either just dry ponds or wooded areas. And those are the ones that we get a lot of complaints or kind of resistance from residents as to why am I limited to only a 4 foot tall fence? What view am I protecting here? You know? And so this amendment tries to address that, to kind of to limit that, to refine that definition so that that atypical lot that impacts the height of fences and accessory structures to that 4 foot height is really for those views that we're really trying to protect, those water bodies and the golf course views. And then with that, providing some additional design options for fences. Right now, for if you do happen to have an atypical lot, you either have to have a 4 foot fence, or you can have a 6 foot tall chain link fence. And the whole point behind the 6 foot chain link fence is because you can kind of see through the chain link fence. Well, a lot of HOAs don't allow chain link fences. Some people don't like the look of chain link fences. So trying to provide some additional design options that still address the issue of providing a non-opaque option, and just increasing that flexibility of options. So things like a clear glass fence or a picket fence, things like that. Again, this is for city standards. People would still have to abide by HOA restrictions.
Now, suppose somebody has a fence that is currently not within this code and some reason it's damaged and they just need to replace it. Are they going to have to replace it to the current standard, or can they?
Yeah, the
replace
current
what they
standard. The
have?
current standard gives more flexibility than what the current code allows. So I mean so if they were to apply for a permit, if this were to be approved, this new standard would apply.
So if a portion of their fence is perhaps beat up a little bit and they need to replace that, are they now going to have to replace the entire fence to meet that height code?
We're not changing the height code.
Okay.
We're providing more flexibility of options. So we're making it easier to have more options if you do have an atypical lot, so you're not limited to just chain link to have a 6-foot tall fence. You have these other design options. And then revise the previous discussion, previous slide, revising that definition also provides flexibility in that people aren't limited to only a 4-foot tall fence if there's not really a significant view. So this
Okay.
code provides more flexibility and options for the residents.
I misread that then.
Okay. The next part of it is regarding AC units. Recently, the City Council and the Planning Commission saw a planned unit development code amendment to their PUD to address some setbacks for AC units based on the new size standards. The Planning Commission has also previously seen variances about this. So because this is more of an industry-wide issue that the Land Development Code hasn't caught up with, staff is going ahead and proposing an amendment to the Land Development Code to apply a reduced standard or reduced setback for AC units to accommodate these new sizes that we're seeing in the industry. And this is to prevent additional variances or PUD amendment requests. What this would do would update the citywide standard for an AC unit from 3.5 feet or 50% of the building setback to a minimum side yard setback of 1.5 feet, along with special conditions to maintain drainage.
I have a question,
Mhm.
and this is for the rest of council. When we discussed this, it was because it was a variance, and I understand, the point about variances, but I don't recollect that we invited going lower and making our standard 1.5 feet or 18 inches. I thought we did it only in the context of that particular development, and we recognized that air conditioning units are big, but the preference is still to maintain sufficient space from one property to another, and if they choose to locate the air conditioner to the side, to hew to that 42-inch standard, because we talked about the problems, not just with drainage, but mowing it. So when I read this, and I've read this a couple different times, and I didn't think that we directed to go lower necessarily. But I could be wrong.
That's something that we need to consider when approving or disapproving this, or sending it back to staff. It's a valid point, because honestly, well, you know what? Let's save this for discussion at the end of the presentation.
Oh, okay.
Because
That's
I
okay.
think that's a worthy discussion point.
And if it's the preference of the council, we can always take this one piece out between first and second reading and still continue with the balance if it's not the council's
Okay.
preference to go this route.
Thank you.
Okay, the next items are creating definitions for pergolas and gazebos and establishing setbacks for the placement of the property within the side or the rear yard. Over the years, again, staff has been getting increased inquiries from residents for these accessory structures. The code is silent on them. So we've created definitions, created setbacks for them. Basically, the setback would be 7.5 feet from the side or rear property line, or the required side yard setback for a principal structure, whichever was less. And what that would mean is you have some properties who have a 5-foot building setback. We're not going to have a larger setback for an accessory structure. So if your building setback is 5 feet, then this setback would then go to 5 feet in those cases.
And then am I reading this correctly? This only is with the setback if it's on the side or the rear. It does not prohibit in the front.
Actually, so the majority
Or
of
does it?
accessory structures in Chapter 16 are only allowed in the side and the rear. In this case, this is consistent with our current code for other accessory structures. It would only be in the side or the rear. However, if a building, if a home is not built up to that front setback, there's still space there in the front to add it, as long as it's not in the front yard.
Okay, well, I'll come back to that then
Yeah.
in discussion.
Again,
I mean,
again, if the council would like for these particular accessory structures to be allowed in the front. And we are just kind of going with, our current code doesn't allow for accessory structures to be in the front yard. If you would like to see them in the front yard, we could, between first and second reading, amend this ordinance to allow it either 3 or 5 feet into the front yard, if that's the council's preference. So lastly, the current land development code states that any specific accessory use or structure which is not addressed in the chapter is prohibited, basically, is not allowed. You know, we can't, right now, we're coming to you with an amendment for pergolas and gazebos because the code was silent on it. I'm not sure, you know, we don't know what's gonna come in the future. We have seen several other codes throughout the area that address this with similar language that we're proposing tonight, that basically states that if there is an accessory structure that's not specifically addressed in this chapter, the administrative official or their designee shall use a setback applicable to the most clearly comparable accessory structure. So with that, staff is recommending approval and is here to address any comments or questions or concerns you may have.
This is where we discuss it. Scott?
No.
Drew?
I'm good with it.
Chase? Marilyn?
Okay, pergolas. You're
Yeah.
not having them in the front yard. I guess my question would be, and if you look at your picture on page 417, the white one that's big, I mean, what's the difference between a pergola that's attached to the house and a porch? I mean, the only difference is the roof line, and I like to watch home renovation shows, and they're really big in California and in sunny places where you don't have a lot of space, or perhaps you have a pool in the back, and so they've figured out a way to have a pergola. Everyone I've seen, they've been attached to the house, and it just strikes me that it's not really any different than a porch roof line. So I would propose getting, I agree with the setback, but I would propose, you might say they can't be freestanding.
We could,
but even then, I don't care. You know, if the thing is, if it looks nice and it conforms to other things.
If it's the desire of the council to allow that, a porch is allowed to extend into the front yard 3 feet. So if you'd like, we could work with legal. So on second reading, if the motion would be amended to include that, we could revise that section to allow pergolas in the front yard that are attached to the home to extend into the front yard 3 feet or
See, that would be
whatever.
my preference, is something, a fixed structure affixed to the house. See, I don't think the unfixed structure makes sense in most front yards, and the ones where they can always come and ask us for an exception for.
And we
but I
can-
don't think
we
it
can
works in
definitely
most-
write that.
But in regards to what Marilyn was stating, it might make sense on a nice front porch. Within reason, I think that is a reasonable request that we can amend the motion for. What was the other one that we were talking about?
Are you, before we move on to the next one, is 3 feet into the yard acceptable, similar to a porch? The only, I think
How big's a normal porch?
well, that's what the code currently allows, is as
Yeah.
a front porch to extend 3 feet into the yard. So if you want to
Yeah.
follow this similar,
Same
Well,
footprint.
How long is this? 3 feet? That's not much of a.
It's pretty small.
but that's assuming your house is built up to your building setback. If your house isn't built up to the building setback, you have
Gotcha.
all that space plus 3 feet.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I would do whatever is consistent with current standards on setback, yeah.
Agreed.
Everybody agreed?
I think
That'll work.
Then the other one is, do we really wanna say for setbacks for air conditioning units, move it to 18 inches? I think that's,
I think it's a bad idea, but it's a good catch, Marilyn.
but I don't know what, should it be 42? I mean, we provided the variance, but I also
If we
think.
take that out, then we revert back to what our current code is, and then anybody who wants an exception is
Yeah,
gonna have to ask for it.
I would do that, because otherwise, can't you just imagine these lots with houses almost on top of each other with, heck, we can't get them to like the little sewer box. Yeah, we're allowing them to put the air conditioner.
I know, but you can't have anything less than a 0 lot line. We're not changing
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
if they can fit the AC in there, if that's what it takes, that, you know.
Well, I think the argument we heard prior was, we've got the 0 lot lines, but the size of ACs are getting bigger
Yeah.
and requiring more room for install, and they don't wanna put them behind the house. I get all that, but to Marilyn's point, she's absolutely right. I think an 18-inch setback is just, that's not a good idea.
Okay, so the motion could then be amended to amend the ordinance for second reading to remove the AC setback item and to provide a 3-foot into yard setback for attached pergolas in the front.
Okay.
I can work with legal to get that done before.
And so does
second
that
reading.
mean every time somebody wants to put it, that we're gonna have another variance
If they
coming?
can't, yeah, if they can't meet the current setback, then there would be a variance.
Who made
Yeah.
the motion?
I don't know.
That's gonna be,
I believe it's me, so I'll
Would you like to
amend
amend your
it to
motion?
that liking.
you're gonna amend the motion to remove the setback requirements for the ACs and to allow the 3-foot pergolas
Yeah.
as stated.
Penelope stated, yep.
And who made the second? Scott, you,
I'll amend my second.
we have an emotion, and we have a motion with an amendment on the floor. Any other questions or comments, council? Anyone here care to speak to the item? Comes back to us. Oh. Who's that guy? He's on the planning commission. He doesn't get paid well.
Gotta state his name, I'm not sure who it is.
Mayor and council, Tom Jordan, 5400 South Williamson Boulevard. This issue came before us, obviously, to the planning commission. The only issue I have is on the 18-inch. You're questioning that variance, that setback, and changing that. You know, we've given those out several times now, and kind of once we give those out, we have to keep giving those out. If it fits the requirements, I can't really put that horse back in the barn once we've let them out. So you're almost forcing us to every time bring a variance before us when the builders want to do it that way.
We gotta give you something to do.
We've got plenty, believe me. You guys gonna have a fun one to watch next week. So
Yeah.
but it's something that's just gonna keep coming before us, and kind of have to approve it once you've given those out. You can't, unless it's something very unique and something that doesn't fit what everybody else has already gotten. You know, if subdivisions have already received it, we pretty much have to do it. So it's just.
I don't agree. I
I'm just-
mean, views change on what our community
Oh,
is
I don't want to
about,
debate. I'm
and because we've
just commenting.
Yeah, but just
Okay.
because we've granted a variance in one case doesn't mean we have to do it for everybody in all circumstances.
No, but it is happening a lot.
It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle.
Thanks, Tom.
And, we get that advice from our lawyers. Thanks.
Yeah, okay.
That sounds like something he would say too, almost verbatim. Any other comments? On the amendment, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, on the main motion, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Brings us to item 25. First reading of ordinance number 2020-32. It's an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Land Development Code, Chapter 16, Section 1E, 1B, relating to outside storage, to add a regulation for inoperable, disabled, abandoned, and unregistered, unlicensed recreational vehicles and equipment. Amending the Code of Ordinances, Section 70-48, to add a regulation pertaining to inoperable, disabled, abandoned, and unregistered, unlicensed recreational vehicles and equipment, to add private motor coaches to the definition of recreational vehicles. Amending the Code of Ordinances, Section 70-50, by deleting obsolete provisions and providing for general enforcement, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-32.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. The item is open on the floor for discussion. Welcome back.
Good evening. Penelope Cruz Planning. So the item before you, as the mayor read, is specifically addressed to outside storage of inoperable, disabled, abandoned, and/or unregistered, unlicensed recreational vehicles and equipment on residential property, such as RVs, boats, motor coaches, and jet skis. Currently, the Land Development Code and the Code of Ordinance prohibits outside storage of unlicensed and inoperable motor vehicles, but does not specifically address recreational vehicles or equipment. This proposed amendment was prepared in close collaboration with code enforcement and the city attorney's office, and it will allow code enforcement to cite a property owner for this situation for recreational vehicles and equipment, where they didn't have clear codes to be able to do so in the past. In some cases, these situations can pose threats to the community, and they've had several complaints from neighbors in these situations. There is a classic picture in the staff report that showed one of these situations. It does not, again, change the current requirements for parking of licensed, registered, inoperable recreational vehicles. So with that, staff is here to answer any questions. City Attorney's Office can also probably address any questions you may have on either of the amendments.
Questions, comments, council? This one, a little bit more cut and dry. Would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, council comments, questions, final? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. The public hearing portion of the meeting is over. Regular agenda. Let's see, an hour and 52 minutes into the meeting, we get to the regular agenda.
We're good.
Presentation of the 2020 Citizen Survey. Mr. Alan Rosen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Alan Rosen, Assistant City Manager. Here to talk to you tonight about the 2020 Citizen Survey results. I'm just bringing up my notes. So I want to run through this just very briefly. I know people love to hear me talk ad nauseum, but I figured I'd give you a break. And just go over the high level stuff. If you have any questions, please let me know. The full report is attached to the agenda item if anybody has any questions. So we'll just cover the methodology, how we did it, the general scores, the high level scores, and kind of some conclusions we can draw from what we saw. Just to remind everybody, the results that we got in this were really pre-COVID. COVID didn't really hit us till after this was closed. So I think that you'll see we kind of got very similar scores from prior years. There are some big changes based on things that happened before COVID. It'll be interesting to see next year what happens and what scores we get after COVID, just to kind of see what that impact is. But just want to remind you of that. So the survey duration was out for 30 days to gather information, which is similar to prior years. And the number of questions we have in the survey this year was 49. It was one more than last year. You can see over the past couple of years, there was a concerted effort to reduce the number of questions. We didn't want this to be too burdensome for people to take. The less questions you have, generally, the more people that will complete it. So we tried to make it shorter, and we have. This graph here shows the number of survey responses. You can see here we're on an upward trend still. After 2014-15, we started using SurveyMonkey, so more online responses, and we started to get a lot more responses because of that. And we got a lot more responses this last year than the year before. Not exactly sure why. It could be because people were quite upset that they could not use online payments, and they wanted to tell us that.
Yeah, there were quite a few comments in there.
There were, and it didn't surprise me,
they
but
would be correct.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me that we got those comments. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it did kind of give me a warm and fuzzy that we are getting responses that we should be getting when we throw these things out there, and these are valid responses. We actually got more responses than this. But what I mean by valid responses, a lot of times people will enter their demographic information and then stop. Or they will enter responses 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And what I've done this year, a little bit different than some prior years, is average all of their scores out. If I could tell it was from the same person over and over, they filled their same information out, same demographic information out, the same answers out 3 or 4 times, I'd average their answers out to give them one response as opposed to 7, 8, 9, and so that they didn't outweigh everything else. So when we talk about reliability, these are pretty standard measurements when you do psychological evaluations or social science. When you do these surveys, you look at confidence level, margin of error. How close would these responses be if you were to ask everybody in the city the same question, right? So the confidence level is is a measure of reliability. A confidence level of 99% means that there is a 99% chance or probability that the results are reliable. The margin of error is the uncertainty between the answer given and the true answer had we received an answer from everybody, right? So we're 99% sure that the margin of error is only plus or minus 3%. So this just gives you an idea of kind of how we ask the questions. Generally, it was a sliding scale. You know, do you agree? Do you not agree? Are you satisfied? Are you not satisfied? And people could move the sliding scale up and down based on what their preference was. So now just to give you a general idea of kind of the scores, as in previous years, we'll start with fire rescue. Each department had 3, 4, 5 questions. And so right here, what we're going to see is just kind of the overall satisfaction from each department, because I did ask that as a follow, like the last question in each section, what's your overall satisfaction with this department? So there are some specific questions, but we're just looking at this for now. Fire rescue, as in prior years, has the highest satisfaction of any of the departments that provide these questions. People were extremely satisfied with the services they get from fire rescue. So this question and response time for fire rescue and medical treatment by fire rescue all had the highest satisfaction rating of any scores in the survey, just to give you an idea. And that was typical from prior years as well. So not a significant change from prior years. Police, about 86% of respondents, overall satisfaction with the department, felt that they were satisfied between that and extremely satisfied with their services. You know, the issue that unfortunately police has with fire generally, you know, they're there to come save you. Sometimes police are there to slap you on the wrist and tell you did a bad thing. So even though they are your customers, sometimes they may not like the service that they're getting. Parks and Recreation, 97% of the people that responded to this said that they were satisfied or extremely or somewhat satisfied with parks. I can tell you that typically, and it was no different this year, the overall comments, if you looked at comments about parks, it's a very typical theme to say, we love what we're getting and we want more. That's a typical theme that I hear. Community Development Department, 87% of the people that answered overall satisfaction felt that community development was doing a good job. And actually, the average satisfaction rating for this answer actually was 2% higher than last year. So there was a slight increase. With public information, 92% of the people felt that they liked the information that they were getting from all of our different resources. And as you may or may not know, we actually just added another one. We're doing a podcast now, which should become more widely available soon. And I heard the first one went really well. So congratulations. Public utilities, 90% of the people felt overall satisfaction with public utilities. That was a little bit lower than that last year, but still within the same range. For public works, 95%.
That was very nice to see.
Yeah, it's, you know, you look at this, I've been doing this now for 5-6 years, and you get very steady information. There's not a lot of large swings. There was this year, but it was very evident why, which I was happy to see that it was reflected in this. The value of services. This kind of question is, we kind of compare ourselves with the other jurisdictions and say, hey, based on what you know you get from us, and the kind of average tax rate that we have versus everybody else, how do you feel about the value for what you're getting? And 94% of people feel like they're either between somewhat or extremely satisfied in the value for services that they receive for the city of Port Orange. This was another change. This has been, I'd say, the last 2 or 3 years, this has kind of been the issue. So with this question. So what we do is we take the council's order of importance in terms of the priorities of their strategic plan. And we say, hey, we don't tell them actually what ours is. We say, hey, there are some here, it comes in a random order. You slide them and put them in an order you think is most important. So you can see here, public safety is council's #1 priority. It is also the public's #1 priority. That has not changed. That, I think, has been that way since we started doing this. Everything else is in a different order from what we originally put in place, I think, 4 or 5 years ago now. Sometimes what that means is it may be time to take a look at that. It has been a long time. We are at the end of I think the last 5 years that we did a large strategic plan for the city. So it may be something that council may want to consider in the coming future. Overall quality of life. So at the end of the survey, we kind of asked people, like, how do you feel just in general about living in Port Orange? And we always get a huge, very high response to this. 97% of people feel either somewhat satisfied or extremely satisfied living in the city of Port Orange. And this was actually 1% higher than the previous year, but it is consistently very high. And this is the one that really did not surprise me at all. This was the lowest.
Soft like a rock.
This was the lowest score this year. Not only was it the lowest score, it was the one with the most significant decline, I think like 26%. And if you look at the comments, it really is no surprise. And 61% of the respondents are somewhat satisfied or better with this. Now, during the year, as you know, we had a different system that would take online payments for utility bills. And we were very concerned with that system, and we specifically took it down because we were worried that people's information, other cities had problems with this vendor, and people's information may have gotten out there, or people's credit card used without their knowledge or consent. And so we took it down. We were really more concerned. We knew it was a convenience, but we were really more concerned with protecting our customers than having that convenience out there. And to remind everybody, there were still 5 different ways to pay the bill. This was just a very convenient one that everybody really liked. Now, some of you may know, some of the council may know, we're starting to get some information out there. We have since signed a contract with a company called Paymentus. Paymentus has some great abilities. We've been working with them to try to test it out, and we're very close to going live in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. You may have seen some of those announcements. We're in that final phase. And when we open up phase 1 of Paymentus, people will be able to make a one-time payment with their credit card using PayPal, credit cards, some other ways too. Phase 2 will allow customers to set up that recurring payment that they had in the past. Also, an additional bonus to this is it has an interactive voice response system, an IVR system, and I'll talk about that in a second. But this is something we've been looking at getting for a very long time, but it's included with the software, so it's not an extra expense. And what this will allow us to do is it will allow people to pay their bill 24/7. They can call up even when customer service is closed and pay their bill with their credit card, middle of the night, during the weekend, holiday, doesn't matter. It also provides us the ability to kind of do a reverse call out, right? Instead of taking up staff time for calling out if there's a shutoff day, we can have these automatic things go out to those folks and remind them again, hey, shutoff day is coming, so that they can go ahead and pay their bill. And also notifications of shutoffs and other utility notifications as well. So it's a really good system, and it should be up soon. And hopefully next year when we ask this rating will go up as much as anything else. Open-ended responses. So this is just a word cloud.
Can we stop for
Yeah,
one
sure.
second there? I'd also like to add that community development is doing a similar program with a company to be named, we haven't determined it yet, that will allow quicker payment processing, quicker release of permits. And right now, if you want a status on your permit, you got to call. 9 times out of 10, all our permit techs are busy. It goes to voicemail. They get frustrated. They call the mayor calls me. I call Tim goes and checks on it. So all that'll go away with the online permitting. So kind of, it doesn't dovetail with Paymentus, but it allows for quicker permitting from the developer and the resident. So you should see that also increase in value or decrease in complaining next year.
I apologize. The city manager did ask me to mention that, and I completely slipped my mind.
I got
it.
Noted in the evaluation.
Thanks.
I'll forget by next year.
This is a word cloud. It's just kind of a visual representation of the most often used words or phrases in the open-ended responses. And, no surprise again, you see city pay, water bill. That all really kind of feeds into the water bill issue. Paying by credit card online. And then traffic, of course, again, one of the lowest scores is always traffic. One year I did an analysis and I looked at the responses versus people who had been here a very short amount of time and people who had lived here a very long time. The people who had lived here a very long time thought the traffic was the worst in the entire world. People that had just moved here were like, it's fine. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't do that analysis again, but that is what I found a couple of years ago. This is just another representation of the often open-ended responses, phrases, and words. Just another way to look at it over the years. And I didn't realize you can't see this at all, except for the numbers here until I looked at it this afternoon again. But basically, you can see the numbers, the overall satisfaction. So you saw that sliding scale between a 1 and a 5, right? 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. You can see here the overall score. If you took every single score that we had in there, the 49 questions, well, some of them are demographic, but you took all the questions, you averaged them out. Last year we got 3.924. This year we got 3.916. So slightly lower, but not much of a change. Again, the biggest change being that online payment system. And so the major issues, again, transportation mobility continues to be one of the bigger issues. Goal alignment I put on there this year because, again, it's showing that some people's priority and goals may be a little bit different than what we had adopted. Again, it was a while ago, so it may be time to kind of take a look at that. Online transactions, we know. High points, of course, fire service continues to be one. Garbage collection is also usually scores very high and did this year again. Parks and recreation, the cleanliness, the helpfulness of staff, the amenities, of course, they always want more, and the overall quality of life. So, open it up for questions. Or not.
Well, you've covered a lot of ground, and most certainly, I know I'm sure all of us spend a lot of time. I always get bogged down reading the comments. It is interesting how some of them change from district to district, and some of them remain the same, i.e. online bill pay, traffic, things like that. Comments, questions?
Haven't had a chance to read through all the comments, but I'm assuming we didn't have any for asking for a Taco Bell. Now just got one, right?
I think there might have been, yeah.
Dropped off? Okay.
We didn't let Tim Berman do one this year.
Okay.
It is interesting reading the comments because you do see some consistencies, which we can tell what those are going to be before we read the comments almost. But you see some things that are maybe interesting and not thought of or discussed. But you see a lot of comments where it's almost, I'm not sure the right wording, but things that local government doesn't do.
Right.
Like providing healthcare services,
right.
Health insurance. Talking about things that are not within our jurisdiction and things
Schools,
like that.
hospitals.
Yeah, repaving unincorporated parts of the county that aren't in the city limits of Port Orange, things like that. I mean, so it's an interesting thing when you read that to try to better understand what the general public understands as the role of municipal government in the city limits. So some of that's pretty interesting.
Any other comments or questions?
I do have a quick comment that thank goodness that they aren't complaining or commenting, rather, on water quality, on failing infrastructure, on things of that nature. I think Public Works and Public Utilities has done a good job with the fee structure and the infrastructure to keep up with it. Now, I believe our head's barely above water. Lynn's doing a great job staying ahead of it. But as Councilmember Ford just mentioned to me tonight, there's yet another pothole. The potholes seem to be getting bigger, worser, and harder to fix. So those become issues when the foundation or the base of the roads start to disintegrate to the point where a patch isn't going to work. We've seen that Councilmember Stiltner at the ramp, right, where all the potholes. We do a pothole and the pothole just moves over about a foot. So we need to stay on top of that, but I think they're doing a good job, and that reflects in this survey. And Lynn and Ronnie and Steve Parnell and the team there are doing a great job staying ahead of it, but as I said, barely. And that isn't due to lack of money per se, that's just time and effort. And we are having delays with paving and delays with sidewalks. As a matter of fact, Lynn is looking at finding a possible in-house paving crew to get some stuff done, so we can get it done in a timely manner, and our citizens aren't wanting at the end of the year. So they're doing a good job with infrastructure, and that is a plus on these surveys, that we're looking at things that could be worse, right? So.
Okay. Thank you. Item 27, approval to renew the annual services agreement with Halifax Humane Society for fiscal year 21. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I was going to say, and I need a second too. We have a motion and a second to approve the proposed agreement with Halifax Humane Society. It's open and on the floor for discussion. Questions, comments, council? Anyone here care to speak to the item? Back to us. Being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Steltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Additional items, city attorney,
Nothing further tonight.
city manager.
Mayor, I'm requesting, based on the September 23rd special meeting, second reading, and the golf course options that council had asked staff to look at, that we forego the September 22nd workshop that has no agenda items on it now. I think staff thinks that we've had enough meetings in September, and if it's the pleasure of council, we can just skip that and go right to the 23rd and call it a month, right?
Oh, shucks.
Laura, you good with that?
I think we're all good with that.
That's
All right.
okay.
What else you got?
That's all I have, sir.
City council committee reports. Art House.
Okay, our next board meeting is this coming Tuesday. The most important thing is the week of September 28th through October 2nd, so in 2 weeks, is the Fun and Funky Virtual Extravaganza, the largest fundraiser that we have for the year. They're going to honor Carl and Susan Persis on Friday, but every single day on Facebook, there will be an event starting at about 5 o'clock. So day number 1 is sidewalk chalk artists. So they're filming those as they occur, and then you're going to get to see the art actually on Facebook and vote for it, which is which is the best one that you like. Day number 2 is professional artists paint off. So 4 professional artists are doing artwork that shows their style, their perspective, 2 to 4 hours. They're being filmed as they do it, so you can see the creative process, and you can also bid on the final piece. There's a mask competition. Just as you all have yours, family members can get together and they can make them, and those will appear, and you can vote on those. And day 4, I'm not sure what that is, and day 5 is certainly celebrating the Persis. So remember, this is an opportunity to really give back to our community, because all of their programs benefit kids in all of Volusia, but also our community. They do art therapy, they have art programming, they have scholarships, and they also do programs for adults. So I encourage you to support the Fun and Funky of Art House, and all our business has been focused on that for the last couple months as we have met.
First Step Shelter. I know there's quite a few things going on. Chase, what's the latest on the safe zone? Why don't you lead with that?
Yeah, it's fully constructed now, with the exception of just some screens around the fence. Right now, we're in holding just to wait till the city of Daytona approves our policies and procedures. That was part of the arrangement that they had to approve it, just to make sure it's safe, where people aren't walking up and down 92, that we have a plan for transportation to and from, back to wherever anybody was dropped off for the safe zone. We are in the midst of getting approval, should have been approved today by the county council, $1.2 million grant, mostly for capital expenses, but it also will allow us to hire a full-time caseworker for people that have been put into permanent housing, which up to this point, 41 people have been put into permanent housing. So following up on those folks is critical, because if they don't stay there, then what good is the first step without the second step being successful? So that's a critical component of that. But Safe Zone will be up and running as soon as we get the approval from the City of Daytona, and finally we get what we're paying for, which
Yeah.
is that that security.
Why I led with that question.
Yep.
Very good. Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce, this Thursday they'll be doing a virtual after hours sponsored by Subaru from 4 to 5. They've gone to online after hours, so anybody interested in attending that, if you're a chamber member or if you're one of us, you can register for that online. That's Thursday afternoon at 4. And I just wanted to thank the chamber for mentioning on their website, on their calendar, because this Saturday is the yard sale for the Port Orange Historical Trust. That's going on from 8 to 2 at the Trust Building. So just, oh, by the way, I just gave them a plug, didn't I?
They're here as well. The chamber's here tonight.
Oh, and, yeah.
Carol.
Hi, Carol. And of course, Jake, we meet with them monthly. I think this Friday we're coming up.
Friday, I believe, sir.
Okay.
If not next.
All right. And if there is no other further business tonight, I am going to drop the gavel and say everybody have a good night. We'll see you next Wednesday.